Okay, I was warned that I might get a little too excited and make the intro take too long, but bear with me. This is feminine classical singing. What do I mean by that? In classical music, gender roles are extreme in terms of how they influence performance practice. So when men sing opera in classical music, they have their folds basically fully adducted the whole time they go up. This is not true for women. Women are more allowed to mix in classical music. Beyonce can do both, because ain't no one going to tell her how to sing, nor should they, unless she's asking for information. So we just watched Halo at the hospital, and she does a lot of very straight classical singing with full fold adduction, which takes a tremendous amount of breath control to not blow them open. But it sounds super, super powerful and not like ethereal, right? Whereas this has that super like, ooh, kind of like very soft, very ethereal effect. What she's doing on the low here is also extremely distinct. She is rounding off her soft palate, like even like getting a little bit of the tongue curved in there. This only works on a microphone, at least the desired effect of it. Can note how to explain this is using the power of science graphs, nerd. You know, a low ooh, right? But this is what the last one is what she did. If you don't have a microphone, this is a terrible idea to do. If you do have a microphone, what's cool about it is you're really highlighting lower frequencies. So this is let's just play it, and you know it's not supposed to sound great. It's just a demonstrative point. You see how that last one is in like it has a like it's really bassy, right? Let's go back to listening to what she did and how she did that. It's very bassy because she's going up close to the microphone. That's a BPA natural. So remember when I said, like, you know, there's feminine opera, and then there's, you know, and how she don't care about no gender roles? This is a mix. There's not complete vocal closure, but there's a lot of it. You can still hear the air coming out, but this is difficult. You might think, oh, it's only an A natural. That's not very high. It's hard to do it this way because the mix is intentional. So the mix that she's doing looks something like this, okay? I'm not going to play it for you because I didn't warm up and it sounds terrible. But this is the idea here. You can see that this is incredibly loud, but you see this fuzz? This fuzz is air leaking. So what that means is that my folds are pretty much closed, but they're a little bit apart. And this is a lot. There's a lot of sound in here. There's even a way to get more, but the point is to achieve this, you need extremely, extremely little air, but a little bit more than you would classically, just if you were being taught how to sing like classical soprano. You would need to know how to put in a little bit more air. And the only way to get away with that to the point where it's not pushing and it's not flat is to have immaculate posture. Look at her posture when she sings this gorgeous note. The back of her neck is really, really long, and her shoulders are not pulled down. How do I know this? There are two things that happen when you contract your neck and you're going for this. Microphone. You drop your mic. Not really. If you contract your neck and your traps, you're actually pushing down your soft palate. And to do this, you need a lifted soft palate. The other thing is that the scapula, right here, the back, as that contracts, it actually pulls down on a muscle that's tied to the larynx. I forget the name of the muscle, but that lowers your larynx. And that is not something that you want to have happen. There are two things that happen, right? Lowered soft palate, lowered larynx. You can't have that. So the posture has to be immaculate. And you can see that it is. And so this is how she pulls this thing off. You see how she actually grows taller? That's not an accident. That's her accomplishing the posture that she needs to have in order to have that much closure and that much airflow, but not blow open the folds. She's gorgeous. Told you how you hurt me. See, I do that and my head gets all scrambled. But you don't get. That's insane to me. You hurt me, baby, but you don't get. So that's a different vocal fry than the ones we usually talk about. This is actually like a screaming technique. But you don't. So there's a difference between that and the ordinary like growl. That is the false folds hitting like that. And there's a certain quality to when that happens because the false folds are actually like pieces of cartilage with flesh around them. Whereas the vocal folds are just like a piece, they're just two small pieces of flesh. Vocal folds are fragile, false folds are not. So you could bang them together all you want. So it's difficult though to pull it off because as you contract your false folds, everything in your system kind of like narrows, and so you have to adjust air pressure wise. So what she's doing here is an air dump on the ch. She's dumping all her air. And that air dump allows her to do that without consequence. I can only do that down low, but that sounds like a little harsher than kind of hear the big difference, right? Now I'm crying in desert. I think that might actually be just lax folds. So that's a fry, I think. But you don't care. She's throwing at everything in there. Ain't nobody tell me this is love. This is actually really, it's hard to go from one to the other. And I'm probably going to piss people off, but we have to go with cyan together. And then the second is lax folds. And we're going to actually show what this is. What we're seeing here, the first one is the false fold deduction. And what you need to pay attention to here is that they're very quiet, they're very loud on the fundamental. But there's another quality where there's not as much air escaping. Right? And we can tell, let me get a little closer still, is what happens when you use the false fold deduction. So even though my normal folds here are open, they're just blowing air, they're not together, this is what's making these really clear sounds. So the false folds are reducting, a little air is escaping, but for the most part, the pitch that's being made is being made by the false folds. So let's hear what that sounds like. You can hear the rapid togetherness, like the tick, 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 tick. It sounds different. The second one is lax folds. And you can see here, all that fuzz is air escaping. And you can also see that it's not as loud, right? So the brighter the teal, the higher, or the louder it is, right? And you can see here that it's not as loud, and there's way more fuzz, way more air is escaping. And so that sounds like this. This is the first one. And then the last one, I added a little false folds there. So why does this matter? Why is this important? Well, because that's actually Beyoncé switching between the two very rapidly in this little moment right here. But you hear the difference? When she's on U at the end of it, you don't, right? The U is lax folds. Don't false folds. These are really, really difficult things to do. Higher up, the higher up you go, the harder it is. Because the higher up you go, you need way, way, way more breath control or support. What does that mean? What is support? Most people don't explain what support is, but I will. Because it needs a definition, and no one ever qualifies the statement. And it just makes me angry because for years I was like, what is support? So what is support? Support could be, one of the ways we could say that she is supporting these notes is that her posture is immaculate. So aside from the things that we talked about, the consequences of contracting the scapula and all that stuff, that aside, if you're tight in your torso, it's like grabbing onto a balloon. More air is going to come out. So what we need to do when we support notes is we need to have really good posture and be really loose so that we're not crunching a balloon. Furthermore, we need to have a very relaxed abdominal wall and basically everything else as we exhale. So a lot of people, when they go high note, they like lurch their abs. There is some contraction. There will be contraction. That's how we exhale. But it is the pace and the ferocity or gentleness of that contraction of whatever muscle you're using to exhale that matters the most. So in order to pull this off, you need absurdly good posture. And then this next stuff that she's doing, I don't know what that is, but it's really cool. Ooh. She's doing really cool stuff here. So she's doing another false fold thing here, much lighter. And then on the word pain, she's opening, her folds are a little adducted, but there's a little bit of space there. She gave a little bit of a little push of air, a little puff, and it's a cool effect. You don't care, but that's okay. All of this stuff that she's doing here, she's dropping her soft palate. She's rounding it out. And what that accomplishes is it rounds out the tone. What it makes more difficult is to be on pitch as you ascend. That ooh thing that we hear from SZA a lot, where you droop your soft palate, it makes hitting higher notes more difficult. So you need even more breath control. Dang. What's impressive to me is that she's hitting a lot of consonants that are very difficult to come off of. I'll show you what I mean. So let's look at these consonants. First one is just me singing after an aspirate. It's just me singing straight. You can see that it's on pitch. You can see that it's even, right? Now you have this huge wall of fuzziness that comes after. What is that? That's a T, right? That's the consonant T. And look, flat, uneven, and all over the place. Why does it happen that way? What's going on that creates that? Right? Anything like that? You're basically closing off your vocal tract and you're pushing air through it. This builds up air pressure. And remember how I was saying that for a lot of the things she's doing, she actually has to have the most precise little air as possible. This is why what she's doing is tricky. She's not only doing the false fold shenanigans that we saw earlier and the vocal fry stuff we saw earlier, she's doing them after very difficult consonants to come off of. I know you don't care too much, but I still care. I think what she's doing on... Yeah, when she care too much, she uses an air dump. So care. What you can do with one of those consonants is you can, after you build up the pressure, you can exhale a little bit, which fundamentally gets rid of more air, which means what you sing afterwards will have less air pressure. But as cool as that is, it's the last bit of this that I find the most rewarding. This is preposterous. So when I demonstrated the false fold thing, I did so with completely open folds because it's easier. This is very difficult. This is full vocal closure. So when we come from here, this is the more like feminine opera singing, and I'm sorry I didn't make opera gender rolled everywhere. And then she goes and does this. That's complete closure. On top of it, it's got false fold distortion. That's nutty. That takes you have to be so good with your air, it's actually nuts. I'm sick of hearing, like when I go to the singing subreddit, I see this all the time. I have a G. I have it. It's good. I got it. On a bass level, if you need to sustain the note, you need to have it on every vowel, and that's the beginning of it. Because if you want to do anything like this, you need to have every vowel sustained on the note that you want to hit, have complete dynamic control, like pianissimo to fortissimo. And the reason you want that is because the second you close your false fold together like this, your whole vocal tract narrows, meaning you can handle even less air. That's how good you need to be to do this. Shout out to Leandria Johnson. She does it like unbelievably well, and I love her. I know you don't care too much, but I still care. And that she does it flawlessly, like, just my brain. That's actually really cool. Hold on. That I can actually do. And it's a really cool thing. It's like a reinforced falsetto. And again, don't at me in the comments if you think falsetto is a pejorative. I don't want to deal with your Dunning-Kruger nonsense. This is reinforced falsetto, right? You can see that there's a lot of air leaking out of this, but that some of this is still really, really loud in this, right? And I'm gonna actually turn this way down so it doesn't destroy your ears, because it's a heavy metal technique. It's most often seen in metal. Some gospel singers do it, and it's loud. There it is. Yeah, not the greatest note. That's the kind of note where you hear it on the subreddit and they're proud of that. I'm not proud of that. It's been a while since I've done it. So this is, it does take less air, but you need it. It's more important with that technique is how much you can tilt your thyroid cartilage. She does it here. Oh, here. That's the thing. Let me up the volume here so you can hear it. She doesn't stay on it. She just does a little bit of it. Right? So that's hard in that you really, really need to be very strong with your thyroid tilt, which I don't practice as much as I used to. So it's but yeah, that's its own sort of thing. I just thought it was really cool to point out. Jeez, there's so many. So we've talked about the false folds. We talked about that slack fold, and I don't think we've talked about like air leaking. No, we did in the first little bit of it. So all of the concepts that we've talked about, there's not many new that I'm hearing. Try to hear it on your own when this is happening. Oh, that run is delicious. Hold on. Look, I can't even do this stuff standing or seated. And she's in a squat, and she's like, I'm just down here grooving. That is closer to the reinforced falsetto. You can hear the air escaping, but you can also hear how clean it is. That's the difference between when she does it and when I do it. It's way cleaner when she does it, because I have a problem with too much air. And I think it's fitting that she's using a technique that's very common in metal, and that her hair is blowing in the wind. Anyone who says Beyoncé can't sing, send them to me so I can slap the sense into them. And if they don't get sense after the slap, I'll kick them down a flight of stairs. This is ridiculous. She's genre bending. She's controlling her torso, her soft palate, her folds, her false folds. She's using incredible tilt on the thyroid cartilage to achieve this ridiculous metal thing, which is appropriate because she has a guitarist next to her in tight leather pants. I mean, hello, hair metal. Respect to the dancers here. I do want to point out one thing with her. I know I said she's on the ground, so this makes it harder. It's sort of true, but not. The way she's moving her torso is actually really advantageous to all of these techniques that take very little air. Hold out your bicep. Try to clench your bicep and then move your arm like this. You can't clench your bicep. You can't do that. You cannot contract what is in motion. So her moving of the torso here, as we established, has to be very flexible. It just boggles my mind that she has access to all of these different hyper difficult things, and she can go in between each and every one of them. Like, the only person I ever knew personally that thought Beyoncé couldn't sing was an opera singer. And I'm not gonna like try to say mean words about her technique or anything like that. But what I will say is that because she only knew opera, she had no idea about any of these things. So all of these things that she was doing here, to her, sounded like mistakes. And that's just ignorant. That's just ignorant. Like, this is the problem with classical education, where they just regurgitate a tradition. It's willful ignorance. This is amazing stuff. And she can out-classical you. It's like, get out of here. like, who are you?